Hello, my name is Edward, and I'm one of the maintainers of Joshland, and I'm just going to be talking about Rhum today, and just sharing a quick tutorial on how to get started with it. So Rhum is a lightweight testing framework for Dino. It's very simple and easy to set up, and behind the scenes it's really simple as well. It's got quite a few features associated with it too, and we can refer to the documentation here. It does take inspiration from other things like Jest and Mocha / Chai, especially for the structure on how you write your tests, such as a descriptive naming. And there's no other Rhum doesn't add much on top of the basic Dino test functionality. It still uses Dino's test runner. So let's jump in and start writing a unit test. I have two files. I have an app.ts file and an app.test.ts file. In the app file, it's just a basic function to sort numbers. It's mainly for example purposes, just to write a unit test for. And so now we're going to write a unit test for this function using Rhum. So Rhum is really easy to set up. All we need to do is import it, and Rhum currently is version 1.1.4, and you'll notice that how we define the tests is very similar to writing a test using Mocha / Chai. So we define our test plan, which usually I would go with the test file. So let's go with app.test.ts. Then within we have test suites. Now these can usually be blocks of code like methods or properties. So we're going to call the test suite for this sort numbers, just for it to be more descriptive. Then within a test suite we can have a test case, and for that we can have as many test cases as we want, and the test cases is the actual testing. You can only have one test plan per file, but you can have as many test suites within a plan as you want, and like I said, as many test cases in a suite as well. So how Rhum will work behind under the hood is that it will collate all of your test cases and run them through the dino.test method and output the results in a prettier format than how Dino currently does. Because that's the one problem we found with dino.test, is that when you're running a large test, or many tests that we have in Joshland, is that it's quite hard to read because it's all a single line. Whereas with Rhum, we found it's much easier to read and much easier to manage. So let's just say this test, it should return an empty array where no numbers are passed in. Now we'll just import that function. From the file, and so let's say our numbers is just an empty array, and the result is sort numbers. And then we should, if we're judging by this unit test, we should know that if there's no numbers in the array, it's going to return an empty array. So we can assert, and that's another thing I should mention, is that Rhum holds all of Dino's assertions within its scope, and they're all accessible within Rhum.asserts. So we're just going to use rhum.assert equals result empty array, and then after every test plan we just need to call rhum.run, and now we can test this file. Now let's check if it will require certain permissions. There's probably a problem there, misspelled Dino. There we go. Let's just add a type to that. So the function knows. And then another error with a Dino 1.5. Just have to clear the cache. And now this should allow env. There we go. Right. There we go. So the test has passed, and you can see that. Let's clear that and then run the test again. You can see that it breaks the output into kind of sections. So it's a lot easier to digest. So let's say we change that, and then I can show what will happen when a test fails. There we go. So let's revert that back to an empty array just so that passes. And now, we could have as many as we want, and I'll just do this to show you what what the output might look like on a larger scale. There we go. Although, because we have to change the method name. There we go. So now, to me, that's a lot more readable than using dino.test from the Dino API. So now we'll just remove those. There we go. And now let's add another test case. So it should sort the numbers. Now, whatever you have in your test case would be very similar to how you run your dino.test. So usually you might have test name and the function, and then you'd run your test in there. That's essentially what your test case is doing. It just provides more readability and structure to your test files. So let's say our numbers array is 5, 100, 2, 54 and 21. Probably don't need that actually. And then let's run that through the sort numbers method. Numbers, and then rhum.assert equals result should be 2, 5, 54, 21, then 54, then 100. Make sure I type that correctly. There we go. So let's try this again. There we go, and it's passed again. So that's the basics of writing tests using Rhum. Like I said before, it's I personally find it much more readable than the dino.test output. It does have zero dependencies as well, and there's also skip functionality, mock requests, and hooks, which will be covered in another video. And should any test cases use an asynchronous be an asynchronous nature, the test cases do support being async, and that will run just as fine. And I believe that's it for the Rhum introduction. Thank you for watching.